Hello everybody, I'm so excited to film this video. I posted a TikTok a couple of days ago about my nonprofit company and I got so many unexpected DMs and comments asking how'd you start your own nonprofit when you were 15? So I thought it would be a really great idea to just sit down and talk about the story of the Backyard Playhouse. So my company is called the Backyard Playhouse. It is a nonprofit children's theater company that I started when I was 15 years old. We are based in Thousand Oaks, California, except we now have a theater in Simi Valley. Spoiler alert, we get a theater, which I am in today, which is super awesome and totally full circle. So I'm gonna talk about how we got started, how we became a company, where we are today, literally the story of our company. And when I say our, I'm talking about me and my mom. We are dynamic duo business partners. I could not have done this company without her. One, because I was under 18 at the time, and two, there's just so much that goes into starting a company that my 15-year-old brain obviously wouldn't have known. So much money, so much time, so much logistics, and talking to legal people all the time. At 15 years old, I wasn't capable of doing, even if I wanted to. So I like to say that she's the logistics of the company and I'm the passion and the heart of the company. And together, it all worked out. We have a nonprofit now. So let's start from the very, very beginning. Ever since I was a kid, I was in the performing arts. I basically was born on the stage. I've been on stage since I was 4 years old, and then I was doing commercials and TV shows for a long time. As I grew a bit older, I was then on regional stages and performing in all musicals, performing in all dance styles, the Nutcracker every year. My entire life was performing art. I was homeschooled up until my freshman year of high school, which was actually in quarantine, so it was kind of like homeschooling again. Being homeschooled, yes, I did school and learned math and science and whatever, but basically all hours of my day was spent around holding fake auditions for musicals in my living room and choreographing fake musicals, and I spent every second of every day basically creating stories and writing and choreographing. Just at 6 years old, I was creating musicals all the time. So I think I knew and my family knew deep down that this is probably the direction I was headed in my life, but it was cool to see signs of it when I was so young. So my freshman year of high school, I went to a performing arts high school, and that literally changed the whole course of my life. By my sophomore year, I was choreographing for my show choir. I was in line ready to choreograph the musicals for my junior year, and I was on the highest level dance team and everything. I was doing it all. And it was actually my sophomore year that this idea kind of just came to light. I was in a show choir class, it's my 6th period, and I was just wow, it would be super fun to run a summer musical theater summer camp for kids this summer, because teaching was always something that I was so interested in, and I wanted to be able to teach something that I knew a lot about, and that was musical theater. I've always loved working with kids. I've always gotten along with kids. I always knew that working with kids is something that I wanted to do in my life, and at 15 years old, I guess I decided it was time to start that. So I was talking to my friend a little bit about it, and we were just kind of bouncing ideas back and forth, and we were well, what musical would we do, And I texted my mom while I was in class at school. A normal mom would probably say what the heck are you talking about? This is insane. But my mom said, sounds like a really great idea. How do we get started? And that is how it all got started, actually. So immediately I started texting my mom, I think we want to do this musical. I think we could do it in this location. I think this, I think that. Obviously my 15-year-old expectations were not realistic at all. I wanted to rent out one of our local theaters or something, and it was just not logical at all. So it was my mom that basically said, look, that's way too expensive. Where are you going to get the rights for these shows? How are you going to find these kids? How are you going to pay for everything? How are you going to pay for everything? That was kind of the biggest question. It took me a lot of thinking, and it was a little bit discouraging, to be honest. And I was wow, this is really hard. I knew that purchasing rights to shows, it was a thing, but I didn't realize how hard of a process it was. So in order to purchase the rights to a show, in order to do a real show, you have to register an account with, we use MTI, also Concord. Those are kind of the two places where you can license musicals or plays. But in order to do that, you have to make an account with one of these two platforms. And in order to do that, you need to establish a actual theater that they can approve your production to be in. You have to have a real business or be a school or be some sort of affiliated organization. And obviously, we were not that. We were not going to be that. I believe this idea started in February and we wanted to do this in June. So it was not really enough time to do that. On top of that, the location, how are you gonna rent something out for that? Like, we don't wanna pay from our pockets, you know what I mean? So we settled on doing it in my friend's backyard, which I know sounds so weird and hot and unenjoyable, but it actually helped so many things, because then we could really invite our friends, people we knew. We really had full control over what the camp was gonna look like, what we were gonna do, where we were gonna be. We didn't have to follow any rules. We didn't have to pay anything. So it was actually really awesome. The first thing that we did was get an Instagram. We made an Instagram. We were like, oh, obviously, Backyard Productions. That's what we wanted to name the company because we were in the backyard. I immediately posted the headshots of the teachers we were gonna have for the camp. Me, stupidly not knowing what rights were to shows yet, posted Alice in Wonderland Jr. on the Instagram, and I immediately get a text from my mom going, what are you doing? You can't post that. Why are you posting that? And I was like, what? What am I posting? And she was like, you can't post that we're doing this show. We don't have the rights to it. And that's when I learned about what the rights were. So I realized that we couldn't logically put on Alice in Wonderland Jr. because we didn't have an affiliated business at all, or a school. We just weren't anything. We were a hope and a dream at this point. My mom had sent me this other link to a website that just kind of had a bunch of children's plays on it. It was something that we used for the homeschoolers in the past, and they had a lot of options on there. It was really, really cheap to purchase these plays to put on, and we didn't have to be affiliated in any way. You could just purchase a play for about $50, and they said you could edit it however you wanted, which is super awesome, and you usually don't get that freedom when purchasing rights to a show, so that was really, really awesome. So I found an Alice in Wonderland on this website. I said, you know what? I'm gonna take this all into my hands, and I'm just gonna turn this into regular Alice in Wonderland from what I wanted it to be. So this is when I spent every single hour in all of my classes at school focused on the company. I had this one huge document called Alice in Wonderland Info, and on that document, I think it was probably 100 pages. I completely overplanned everything, but it was so much fun to me. I had so much fun making lists upon lists upon lists. I created the registration form and wrote the script. I used kind of Play as a template, and I just wrote more characters. I changed some lines. I even added songs in. And since the songs, weren't originally in the musical, I had to create karaoke tracks for all of them, and I even took it upon myself to create part tracks for all the kids so that everything they would practice at home would be accurate to the version we were doing. So I would find the karaoke tracks, I would then record myself on GarageBand singing exactly what I wanted to put into the musical, and uploaded it and added it to its own sort of music album. I spent so long doing this, and it was literally so much fun. Sometimes my friends who were also gonna be teaching the summer camp, they would come over and I would make them record part tracks with me because I needed multiple voices. And other times we actually would come over to my house and we would test out the crafts that we were gonna do at the summer camp. At this point, it was probably April, May. I made day by day, minute by minute schedules for every single camp day. It was gonna be a 2-week camp. I think it was 9 to 2 p.m. with a lunch break, and when we were doing a craft, and when we were going to rehearse this scene and that scene and everything. I went through the script. I figured out who was in each scene. I did so much for this, and it was so much fun. We started getting registrations. We had this Google form, and we were just kind of posting on social media, and I was sending it to a bunch of my homeschool mom friends. We were just kind of publicizing it wherever we can. Facebook mom groups was kind of our biggest draw, surprisingly. We got a lot from Facebook mom groups. We would get a lot of messages just being like, hey, what is this? Because obviously they're like, why are we gonna go in this random person's backyard and put on a production of Alice in Wonderland? What's going on? So I was constantly responding to moms on Facebook, and yes, I got help from my mom on these messages, but I really wanted to try to do it myself and see how this whole thing worked out. I think this is when I started to realize that I liked this a lot. I'm responding to messages, we're getting registrations. By the time the camp begins, we have 25 kids, which is insane. I can't believe we got there. I can't believe we did that. Everything kind of worked out the way that I wanted it to. We actually had one of the parents of the kids donate a bunch of random set pieces for Alice in Wonderland, because I guess they were throwing a party that was Alice in Wonderland themed, so we got to use all of their sets, which literally was awesome. But on top of that, we made every single prop. I remember painting random eggs and creating card costumes and doing this and doing that. Like, we did so much stuff for this show. It was so legit and so organized, because that's just how my brain works. Each corner of the backyard was a different sort of station. So one corner of the backyard was for dancing, and one was for singing, and one was for acting, and then we had like the lunch table and the craft table. So everything's going so smoothly. The production is turning out amazing. I was having the time of my life, because it was like everything I had dreamed about when I was homeschooled just like kind of coming true, like right in front of me. I was doing like botmas with my kids across the floor, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've just been practicing this moment for years and years and years. By the way, in this production, I was producer, choreographer, and I wasn't director, but I ended up kind of co-directing just because I had written the script and I kind of knew the ins and outs of everything that needed to happen. And then my mom actually went to college for costume design. Obviously, she was going to costume our show, and it turned out great because we had a bunch of just like random costumes laying around our garage, and it all kind of worked out. And Amazon was our best friend, actually. So here's the big question. Where did we get the money for this? We charged registration fees, of course, because it was a summer camp. Registration fees plus money from our pocket, which, you know, is not ideal, but in order to start a company, you kind of have to make some sacrifices, and I was so grateful that we had the funds. We charged so cheap for our registration fees. For a 2-week camp from 9 to 2, I think we charged like $300, which was a super deal for the parents, and I think that was kind of the draw on Facebook Marketplace, actually. Not Facebook Marketplace, Facebook mom groups, where other summer camps in our area are like $750 for the same amount of time. And it was very personal. Like, it was very intimate, like in the backyard. We got to know every one of the kids so well. It was a very, very unique experience. After that camp happened, everyone loved it. We got such good feedback from everything. The camp was super successful. Some challenges that we had to face in that situation was parents questioning, why is this child 15? Why is this child teaching my child? Other challenge we had to face was what everyone around us was thinking. It was a very vulnerable situation to put yourself in, to post on Instagram while you're in high school and say, I'm running a children's theater camp.
Hi, I'm Callista Loader, and I'm one of your teachers for Backyard Productions 2022 Summer Camp Alice in Wonderland.
Especially at a performing arts high school, when everyone's musical theater. I honestly enjoyed it too much to care. At that time, that was probably the most difficult hurdle for me as a 15-year-old. This is where all of the legal stuff comes into the picture. So, you know, couple months go by, and I'm realizing, oh, that was fun. I want to do that again. So the friends that I originally started this company with, we weren't really close anymore. So I decided to take it into my own hands to continue this company because I loved it so much. I didn't want it to die. I wanted it to be more real. I wanted it to be more serious. It wasn't a hard decision to decide to be a nonprofit because our situation was very unique. A children's theater company ran by a 16-year-old was not the norm. At this point, I decided that I didn't want to just do summer camps. We wanted to be a nonprofit, meaning that we would put on productions for kids and charge them no fee to participate. Obviously, the community needs opportunities for kids that want to perform. People are charging kids and parents to be in these productions, and it's expensive, and not a lot of kids can do that. And that's not fair. That's not how it should be, in my opinion. I wanted to create an opportunity for kids to be able to participate freely and have that opportunity. First thing that me and my mom had talked about, because she was all in this situation. She saw how much fun I had at the first camp. It was successful. So she said, okay, let's sit down, let's make this happen. She had a bunch of prior knowledge about kind of how to start a nonprofit. She's owned small businesses in the past. First thing we did was we sat down and we created a mission statement. So a mission statement is basically, it's the value of your company and what sets you apart from the rest of the companies like you. It's what makes your company unique. So our mission statement was something along the lines of creating opportunities for teens to teach kids and creating opportunities for both of them, because the teens are getting learning experience teaching and the kids are getting experience doing theater for free. So our mission statement leveled out to be educating children in all aspects of musical theater, because the teens were also children in that sense. After we had our mission statement, we went to LegalZoom and they helped us register to be an official nonprofit. And then we went to the IRS and we got our official 501c3, and there we were. We were a nonprofit. I remember the day that we got sent stuff in the mail that kind of showed us the official information. We got this like binder from LegalZoom and it said Backyard Playhouse. Oh, that's another thing. We were no longer Backyard Productions, because in order to affiliate as a nonprofit, you have to have your completely unique name. So we went through a lot of options, but we landed on the Backyard Playhouse. We were officially affiliated at the nonprofit, the Backyard Playhouse. So in order to become a nonprofit, it wasn't free. It cost about $1,000, which we paid from our pockets, and a whole lot of paperwork that legally I couldn't do at 16 years old, but my mom did, and I was super grateful for that. On top of that, we had to form an official board of directors, which consisted of my grandparents being the secretary, the treasurer, and then my mom being the president. So already, you know, our mission statement was becoming true because I couldn't legally be on the board of directors, so I became like the student representative of the board. The next thing that we had to do was get insurance for the company. That took a long time to find a company that would insure us, which also cost a lot of money, and we couldn't pay for it just based off of donations. So that is why we decided to have an annual summer camp, and we applied at the Parks and Recreation Center, and we started doing summer camps through them so we could pay off our insurance. But at the time, that also required us to expand our board of directors because we were all related. So this is where Born to Perform Studio comes into the picture. I've trained at Born to Perform for a long time. I performed with them, and the three owners, Brett, Ryan, and Lexi, decided to help us out and be on our board of directors, as well as some other local parents in the area that wanted to support. So now we are legally set. We are a nonprofit, we have insurance. What's next? Obviously, putting on productions. So with this new freedom of being an official company, we were able to register with MTI and Concord and officially purchase rights to shows. Yay! However, they're so expensive. I was shocked when I found out how much it is to just simply buy the rights to a show. The next show that I wanted to put on was a production of Dear Edwina Jr., which to me, I just loved that musical because nobody knew it. It's literally about kids putting on a production in their backyard, and I thought that was just the perfect way to kind of market our official nonprofit now, is to start with that, because that is how we started. We are also the Backyard Playhouse, so obviously. I had a hope and a dream, and we were able to pay for the rights for Dear Edwina Jr. The day that I got the rights was like the happiest day of my life. I was so excited. I had already made graphics to post with audition forms, and I was already getting into the flow of everything like I was for the summer camp. I was making lists and lists and lists. Also, being a nonprofit opens up the opportunity to apply for grants. So there was our local theater here, not this one didn't exist yet, but our one local theater in Simi Valley. We were able to apply for a grant, and they actually accepted it, and they gave us $1,000 and an opportunity to perform at their venue, which was a huge deal. I literally couldn't believe it. It was like every single dream I'd ever wanted was coming true. It was also super special because it was a theater I'd performed at. Also, the good thing about purchasing rights is that it comes with karaoke tracks and part tracks. The next thing we had to deal with was rehearsal space. At the time, I was working at a dance studio, again, in our town. We decided to rent out the space for our auditions and for our rehearsals, which was a long process. It was a 6-week process. I think it was also 3 days a week that we were rehearsing. It was $25 an hour, which I think we had like 3-hour rehearsals, like 3 days a week. So it was not cheap. Next other hurdle that we had was getting kids, because obviously, one, who's going to do a production of Dear Edwina Jr.? What is that? It's the best musical ever, but nobody knew what it was. Also, who's going to want to do a production run by 16-year-olds? Also, who's going to do a production with a new nonprofit children's theater company? But our biggest draw was that there was no participation fee involved, and that actually opened a door to a lot of kids in theater in the area that were not necessarily claimed yet by local theater companies. It was this new sort of crowd of kids that never got the chance to perform, and we kind of took them in, and we were able to kind of help them grow. Like, it was so amazing. We held auditions for Dear Edwina Jr. I think we got 3 auditioners. All new kids I had never seen before. 3 adorable, lovely, talented, beautiful children. We ended up having to cast the rest of the show with people that we invited to be in our show. We were like, there's no participation fee, like, just come do the show, it'll be really, really fun. And of course, I was known in the community. I was a teacher at Born to Perform and at this dance studio. Like, people knew who I was, and so they trusted my work and my vision, which was very, very nice. I gathered a cast of kids after about a month of scouting. Big takeaway from this is just putting yourself out there and asking, giving yourself the opportunity to get rejected will actually get you farther than you think it'll get you. I got a whole cast of kids, and we started the rehearsal process, and it was such a blast. We got all of our costume pieces from Goodwill. We got all of our props from Amazon, basically. I had a bunch of friends kind of come in and stop at rehearsals every once in a while just to kind of like show them what I'm doing. At this point, posting on social media was not as hard for me.
Hi, I'm Callista Loader, and this spring, the new nonprofit organization, the Backyard Playhouse, is excited to announce our production of Dear Edwina Jr.
Everyone knew what the company was. They knew that this is something I was doing, so I didn't feel as like insecure posting about it. While of course, Backyard Productions Alice in Wonderland was our first like real show, I say Dear Edwina is like our first show. It was in a theater watching my kids that I directed and choreographed and produced and basically did everything for. I will never forget the moment watching them on stage. I cried. Like I was up in the booth and it was so cool to like wear a headset and be on that side of things in the first place, but watching them perform, I cried. And that was the moment where I was like, oh wow, this is gonna happen for me. This is what I want to do. I'm so grateful that so many of the kids that were in Dear Edwina are still in my productions today. Like a bunch of them are in Legally Blonde, which is the one that we're doing right now. And I have watched these kids grow for like 4 years. It's really, really awesome and special because I've grown with them. And I think that there's something really special about teens teaching kids because you can relate to them on a different level than like an adult can. They understand you and you understand them, and you kind of just have this mutual understanding that you're all learning together and you're all here to have fun, and it is just such a unique experience. Mission statement was so accurate to what we were doing because it was exactly that. It was kids learning musical theater in all aspects, and I was learning how to tech and call a show and lighting design and everything. It was so magical. So from that moment on, people knew about us. I think we sold out all of our 2 shows. But we're really impressed with the quality of the production that we put on. They were impressed that the kids did so great and the costumes looked great and the set looked great. This is my friend group in high school. Instead of hanging out and like going to the mall or like doing weird things, like our hangouts consisted of painting sets for productions and going to the theater and setting up lights for a show. Like our version of hanging out was literally putting on productions with children. Like it was so much fun. So from there, obviously we are now doing a bunch of productions. We have our annual summer camp, which is really our money maker because we charge a registration fee for that one because it is like a day camp, and we are still registered with our local Parks and Rec. We do more productions throughout the year. Susical Junior was a huge one. We applied for a grant at our like the biggest local theater here, and we got a $10,000 grant from TO Arts. They actually made a documentary about it. You can check that out if you want to watch that sort of process. People started to know me as the girl who was running the Backyard Playhouse. Like the social media was growing and people were searching out our company to do productions because it was no fee, because it was good quality, because we had such a good reputation, because we were so much fun. Then that I knew I needed to expand kind of my creative team. I had graduated high school. While my high school friend group kind of dispersed, I had 2 wonderful friends stick with me to continue running the company because they were staying local. So that is Drake and that is Sam. And I could not do what I'm doing today without them either. And my mom, of course. It was kind of just like us 4 against the world. Drake, super awesome. He's gonna be here soon, I think, but he kind of took over all of the technical stuff. So he was now doing the lighting and the sound and figuring out that stuff. And Sam is our lovely, amazing, wonderful costumer for everything. And Sam puts in so much work making lists and sewing and fixing, and they're both so special and unique and so important in their own ways. Is someone here? Drake? Look who's here!
Hello!
What production did you join us in?
I joined in the production of Winnie the Pooh Jr. as a sound designer, and then I was vocal director for Susical, my first production team.
That's true.
Been an OG since the beginning.
Yeah, and me and Drake actually, we were in a lot of our high school classes together. We were in business algebra, and we would joke and we'd be like, wouldn't it be funny if we were like old and like running this company together? We were like,
Well,
here we
guess
are.
what?
We're here right now.
We're here right now in the theater
in the theater
that I'm about to sound design in for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. The next big part of this story is the theater. Well, actually, I moved away to New York. That was kind of a big one. We decided to get a new artistic director for the company who was going to be a team, or was a team, basically. And it worked out because I was moving away to New York at like the same time. My dear friend Mia took over the company while I was gone. She became artistic director. At the time, I think she was 15. No, she was 14. Mia took over the company at age 14, and she just kind of did everything that I did for the company while I was gone. She was picking the shows, she was making sure our marketing was good, she was kind of organizing everything with the help of Drake and Sam and my mom, and they were now a team. And I was in New York watching them through a computer screen going, oh my God, I just want to be there. So I came back to California. And it worked out because Mia was now getting really involved in high school, as teens do, you know, and so I kind of stepped back into the role. We decided that me, Drake, and Sam are kind of like the superiors, and my mom. We're kind of like up here, right, if there's a tree. And then we are teaching younger kids how to teach. So we are mentoring the mentors, if that makes sense. So we're doing productions and we are including younger teens onto our creative team to assistant vocal direct, assistant choreograph, or maybe even choreograph or direct. So being a theater company in the community, we obviously all sort of realized that we need a theater space. It is so much money to rent space for all the shows. It's really hard to find time to get put in their calendar. It's so hard. So we moved into an abandoned Macy's. Yes, it was a disaster. We had no bathrooms. Nobody really liked being there, except for the fact that we had a theater to put shows on. We put on Into the Woods Junior and full version in that theater. And we decided we didn't want to do that anymore. So Brent and Ryan, the owners of Born to Perform, and my mom made a deal with this other theater company. They decided to all go in on this bigger building together. Everyone sort of paid their own sort of percentage into the fund. Then we get storage space. We're kind of like a resident company at the theater, so we can do our productions here whenever we want. This space is an abandoned e-bike store. We are now like officially known in the area. What's Backyard Playhouse doing next? And where is Backyard Playhouse? And all these things, and like we're totally put into the category of children's theater company in our community, which I couldn't have even imagined when we started. That is the story of the Backyard Playhouse. Oh, on top of that, our mascot is Hugo. It's a theater bug. Get it? If you want to hear more about the journey and the challenges and our success and more show clips and whatever, let me know. I'll make a video, but I'm stopping this one here because this is a 53-minute video of me talking. And we have to sound design and light design in here. So goodbye. I hope this answered all of your questions, and I will see you soon.